Midas! It's me, you from the future!
I have 2 questions. 1, how did you get here? And 2, who's the president of Nintendo?
There's no time for that. Also, Mark Wahlberg. You need to take this drive. It has every great game Nintendo has ever made that I got legally.
I will protect this with my life.
Throughout my life, I have played hundreds of Nintendo games, and some are better than others. So today I'm talking about the best Nintendo games from some of their most popular franchises, starting off with Pokémon. The main series Pokémon games are truly special. Regardless of the region, going on your first Pokémon journey is something that people never forget. And though it wasn't my first journey, Pokémon Emerald was the one that I consistently look back on as the best. Though the Hoenn region has its issues, it's still one of the most memorable Pokémon regions of all time. Even from the beginning of this game, where you start out in the back of a truck, I knew I was going to have a great time.
Where is all of my stuff and also my child?
Whether it's moving into your house, getting your starter Pokemon, or battling your rival, the early game goes by so fast but gives you all of the information that you need to have a good time. Unlike a lot of modern Pokemon games, it doesn't hold your hand and drag out the tutorial. After just a few minutes, it throws you directly into the action. Hoenn is known for having some of the best starter Pokemon of all time. Whether you pick Mudkip, Trico, or Torchic, there really isn't a bad choice. But what makes Pokemon Emerald in particular so great is how great the game flows. The pacing throughout the entire story is perfect. Whether you're battling gyms, fighting your rival, or going against Team Magma and Team Aqua, there is always something going on to keep you on your toes. And though the villain organizations and story aren't the best in Pokemon history, they consistently give you something to do that is engaging, whether it's progressing through the story and collecting gym badges, or going through optional areas like the desert or New Mauville. Emerald is the deluxe version for Ruby and Sapphire, and it did a perfect job being the best way to experience Hoenn. You don't have to pick between battling Team Magma or Team Aqua, you get to see them both in action. And though both teams have some of the dumbest goals in all of Pokemon, getting to have 2 teams in one game that are directly competing is a fun concept. And though Pokemon Emerald has its issues like an over-reliance on water-based HMs, a large portion of the map that involves surfing from point A to point B, and the lack of missing features from later games like the physical and special split and new typings, it still offers one of the best early Pokemon experiences of all time. It has one of the most consistent regional Pokédexes of all time. It was the first Pokemon game to offer a box legendary trio with Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza going on to be some of the most iconic Pokemon of all time. And it even has an almost infinitely replayable post-game with the Battle Frontier.
I don't know who made the Battle Pyramid, but they are a demon.
If I ever develop memory loss, I just need a copy of Pokemon Emerald and I will be good to go. But there's still one more Pokemon game that I feel like I have to mention.
Pokemon is getting 2 because I am indecisive.
It makes me really happy to see that since Pokemon Black and White released, the opinion on the game has shifted entirely. I distinctly remember being made fun of for playing and enjoying this game after it released, and I'm glad that people are finally coming around to appreciate how good this game truly was. Similar to Emerald, they throw you directly into the thick of it in the early game, having you get into not 1 but 2 Pokemon battles before you even exit your bedroom. Black and White do 2 things in particular that set them apart from any other Pokemon game in the series. The first is that they tell the best story that we've gotten in a Pokemon game. Team Plasma is, in my opinion, the best villain organization that Pokemon has and probably will ever get. Unlike Team Galactic, who is trying to recreate the entire Pokemon universe, Team Plasma's goal is to liberate Pokemon and set them free.
But I think we can all agree that Team Galactic's biggest crime is their haircuts.
Team Plasma isn't trying to do something that will destroy the planet, they are just simply trying to free Pokemon. And as a premise, that is a simple, achievable, and great idea. But what truly makes it the best Pokemon story is the dynamic between N and Ghetsis. Where N truly believes in the mission of Team Plasma, Ghetsis is just trying to manipulate people to take over the world. And whether it's through the environmental storytelling that takes place throughout the game, or the conversations that are had between key characters, they manage to tell a Pokemon story that is both plausible and incredible. And the second most important reason this was so great is that these games only allow you to use Pokemon that are from Unova. Now I get that especially at the time, this was a very divisive choice, but I think it helps play into the overall overall strength of the region. Games like Gold, Silver, and Crystal were really held back by what Pokemon were available. So to get a brand new region where you could only use the new Pokemon until the post-game solved a lot of problems that fans had been having. And though this could be seen as an overcorrection, I still think it led to a great Pokemon experience for people who are new and old fans, allowing new fans to hop into the series seamlessly, and old fans to try out a bunch of new Pokemon for the first time since Generation 1. From Pokemon Emerald to Pokemon Black and White, they were releasing incredible games. But I feel like these 3 games are the best.
The story and gameplay were incredible, and I didn't have to fight gods in space. Going to space in a game is such a cop-out.
If you had told me that after Mario Sunshine, they were gonna shoot this plump Italian man into space not once, but twice, I probably would not believe you. But they did just that, and they managed to make 2 of the best Mario games of all time. But Super Mario Galaxy 2 is the best Mario game that we've gotten. This was made for the Wii, the console that TVs across the world feared for their lives. And I wasn't sure that Mario was going to do a great job incorporating motion controls into the fluid gameplay the series was known for. But after I got my hands on Mario Galaxy, I just knew that I needed more. And Mario Galaxy 2 was just that. All of the 3D Mario games at baseline are incredible games, but Mario Galaxy 2 struck a perfect balance between difficult levels and accessible gameplay, where nothing was punishingly challenging because they wanted it to be hard, but it was more so a chance to test your quick thinking and reflexes. It was perfectly accessible to me as a child while still retaining a decent level of challenge as an adult. Compared to any of the other Mario games that we've gotten, the Galaxy games are extremely unique. There is something that is so cinematic and special about jumping from planet to planet that I really can't get enough of. And the new power-ups in this game do a great job to enhance the overall experience. My favorite of which, and my favorite Mario power-up of all time, is Cloud Mario, where you can spin to place a cloud underneath your feet to allow you to go from point A to point B so much easier. There is something that is so much fun about being able to create a little platform that helps you get from one spot to another, and though I wouldn't say it's the best power-up of all time, it's definitely one of the most unique. But I think what set Mario Galaxy 2 apart from any of the other Mario games is the fact that Yoshi is now playable in space. And though this seems like it would be a minor change, it is just so much fun to be able to whip around as Yoshi using his power-ups, and it was the perfect way to enhance the game without changing too much at one time. And though there were some things that the original Mario Galaxy did better, like having a better overall story or having a better hub world, what matters most to me is the overall package, and Mario Galaxy 2 did a better job and in my opinion is the better game. Mario Kart has been and will always be one of the best party games of all time. Whether you're 9 or 90, you can pick up and play Mario Kart extremely easily. And though there are games that I prefer in the series more than this, the game that did it best was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
But you're forgetting about the Wii wheel. As soon as I got a car, I stopped caring.
When Mario Kart 8 came out on the Wii U, it was already an incredible game. And when I heard it was coming to the Switch as well, I was a little disappointed that we weren't getting a brand new Mario Kart for the console. And then it released with a bunch of brand new content and all of the DLCs from the original, and that would have been enough to keep me happy for years. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, we got the Booster Pass, doubling the amount of tracks in the game while adding a bunch of brand new characters, which easily cemented this as the best Mario Kart that money can buy. And even if you ignore the sheer amount of content, the quality is still there in spades. This is the best handling Mario Kart that we've ever gotten. The racing feels tight and fluid, and if you want to put time in to get really good at the game, you can. But of course, it still retains the Mario Kart magic of having a bunch of chaotic items spread across the game that both enhances the strategy and, more importantly, adds to the fun. Even though I will always be mad at Nintendo for withholding Funky Kong from me for this long, the fact that we got him back at all is enough to make me happy. And if you're one of the 5 people who has yet to play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I have one thing to say.
Have you ever heard of Petey Piranha?
I'm not invited to a lot of parties, but when Mario's throwing one, you know I'm on the list.
Sorry, buddy, you're not on the list.
Maybe this will change your mind.
Thanks for your Still not on the list.
From the N64 through the life of the GameCube, all of the Mario Party games that released were absolute gems. But the best of the best was Mario Party 6. The hardest part about any Mario Party game is finding a good balance. There are games with great boards and terrible minigames, and games with terrible boards and great minigames. But Mario Party 6 did something special and had a great balance between the two. The board selection here is my favorite in the entire series, with some incredible boards like Fair Square, Towering Treetop, and Castaway Bay, just to name a few. But what made them so special was the gimmick this game had of the day and night cycle. Every 3 turns it switches from day to night, and depending on the board you're on, there's going to be some sort of change. This was not a new feature, it was first shown in Mario Party 2 on the board Horrorland, but to have that be the central gimmick of a Mario Party game was a brilliant idea. It adds a great level of strategy without needlessly overcomplicating the game. And of course, you can't talk about Mario Party 6 without talking about the minigames. They somehow turn mowing the grass into a great time. But one of the most underrated parts of this game is how great the single player mode was. As you may have been able to pick up from the name, Mario Party is a party game series, and I am all for a great couch co-op game with friends. But that does limit how often I can pick up and play a Mario Party game. I'm not gonna sit here and say that solo mode is better than playing with friends, but it's still a good time.
Mario Party 6 was a great time, and you could even play as Koopa Kid. You remember him, right, Nintendo? Right?
I can't think of a single bad Mario RPG.
Sticker Star.
But if there was one game from all of the Mario spin-offs that I would have to say is the best, it would be Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. At this point, they have put Mario in pretty much every game you could possibly imagine. He has a Dance Dance Revolution game, it's safe to say that that's where he peaked. But the Mario and Luigi games have a high level of consistent quality, and I think the best of the best is Bowser's Inside Story. This is evidence that no matter how weird a game's idea can be, it can still be a great game. You play as Mario, Luigi, and Bowser in this game, because apparently Bowser has a load of free time where he's not watching Kid Koopa, and you play as Bowser going on his journey while Mario and Luigi are safely nestled in his colon. You bounce back and forth between playing as Bowser and playing as Mario and Luigi inside of Bowser, and you go on a great journey where Bowser takes on Fawful to get back his kingdom, while Mario and Luigi try not to get digested. This game is full of the Mario and Luigi humor that we've come to know and love, while having some of the best gameplay that we've seen in a Mario RPG. If you've ever wanted to play this game, I highly recommend grabbing your DS and playing this the way God intended, because I don't know whose idea it was to remake this game for the 3DS,
but as long as I walk this earth, you will not be safe.
I don't think anyone can argue that the Super Nintendo is one of the best consoles of all time, being home to some of the most groundbreaking games that Nintendo has ever produced. And Donkey Kong Country is always in the conversation for one of the best Super Nintendo games of all time. And even though there are 3 Donkey Kong Country games on this console, I think the best is the first.
Also, because saying Diddy's Conquest just does not feel morally correct anymore.
Every part about Donkey Kong Country to this day still blows me away. Whether I like to admit it or not, the Super Nintendo is now a very old console, and this is one of, if not the best looking game on the console. Whether it's the backgrounds, the character designs, or the plethora of bananas that you pick up along your journey, every part about this game looks stunning. And it doesn't just look good, it has some of the tightest platforming controls I have ever felt. One of the most common complaints that I've heard is that Donkey Kong Country, especially on the Super Nintendo, is extremely difficult. And I can't lie, it is very hard. But by having such tight controls and incredible level design, it never feels like the game is just difficult for the sake of being difficult. There are so many secrets like hidden areas, collectibles, and bonus rooms, which keep even the most seasoned fan of platformers on the edge of their seats the entire time they play. At least once a year at this point, I pick up one of the original 3 Donkey Kong Country games and make it my mission to beat through it as fast as possible. And though this may cause me to go bald at an early age, I think it is worth it every time I play.
Donkey Kong Country is one of the best platformers of all time, but there is one game that I would say is just as good.
Super Mario World was one of the best launch titles that we have ever gotten. It introduced us to so many great things, the most important of which being Yoshi. And though Yoshi's Island is technically a sequel to Mario World, but let's be honest, this is an entirely different game. And in a lot of ways, it's also better. The Super Nintendo was full of a bunch of incredible platformers, but most of them played in a very similar fashion. You run around and jump on enemies, and if you run into an enemy, you get hurt or die. But Yoshi's Island changed that formula entirely. Yoshi plays very differently than he did in Mario World, mainly because he doesn't jump on his enemies, he consumes them whole. Throwing eggs works incredibly well, and it really helps differentiate this game from the Mario game it came from. Whether you're taking out an enemy or trying to collect everything in sight, there is something to throw an egg at that always feels fun. And there are plenty of secrets and challenges spread throughout the levels that encourage you to take your time and really explore everything this game has to offer. The game itself looks and feels incredible with tight platforming controls and some of the best sprite art I've seen in a Mario game. The enemies are vibrantly animated and look great, and when you combine that with the backgrounds and the levels you explore, you're given one of the most fun and infinitely replayable packages that was available on the Super Nintendo.
Somehow Yoshi's Island made me feel bad about sacrificing Yoshi as many times as I did in Mario World. Makes you think.
I was torn between putting Melee and Ultimate in this spot, but when it came down to it, I had to go with my gut, so I picked Melee. The entire genre of platform fighters would not be what it is today without this game. And as someone who used to play a low level of competitive Melee, I understand this game is not perfect.
But it also is.
Melee set the standard for what a Smash game should be. Smash 64 set the groundwork for what Smash Bros is, but when Melee released, it added so many things that have become synonymous with Smash Bros as a series. As far as single player content goes, there was a good amount to do. The adventure mode is one of my favorite things that Smash Bros has ever added. It may not have a cohesive story like Subspace Emissary and Brawl, but it still brought you through a ton of iconic Nintendo locations, and it allowed you to go on a solid adventure with any of your favorite characters. And speaking of characters, the new ones that were added were incredible.
I don't know who this Game & Watch guy is, but I am petrified.
Introducing new characters to Smash Bros has become an event. And it all started with Melee introducing characters like Ice Climbers, Mr. Game & Watch, and the Fire Emblem characters, because these weren't series that were household names across the world. They were just characters that worked well in the idea of Smash Bros, helping these characters become household names for the first time ever. But the thing that set Melee apart from any other Smash game that we have ever gotten is that this game is a competitive masterpiece. Melee is somehow extremely accessible for new players, while having one of the highest skill ceilings I have ever seen in a Nintendo game. Whether it's wave dashing, L canceling, or stringing together the most disgusting combo you can think of, Melee was full of incredible mechanics that made it so people are still playing this competitively to this day.
I could sit here and fangirl about Melee for hours, but let's just say it was good.
I feel like I would get pushed in front of a moving train if I didn't put Ocarina of Time as the best Zelda game ever made. Unlike what some people say, it's not perfect and it does have some issues, but Zelda was one of the few series that made the jump to 3D perfectly. The sense of adventure that you get from this game is second to none, and it paved the way for almost every 3D game that has come since. The progression feels incredibly natural. Going from young Link to adult Link and watching the world expand and get more complicated as time goes on is something that I enjoy to this day. The dungeons start out simple and get progressively more complicated as time goes on, and the story to this day is one of the best that we have gotten in a Zelda game. Personally, I enjoy playing this on both the 3DS and the N64, even though using an N64 controller for anything other than tying a boat to a dock should be a crime. I still have a great time regardless of what version I play. But similar to Pokemon, there is one more game that I have to talk about or else I will go criminally insane. When this released, there were a lot of emotions surrounding this game existing. Going from Majora's Mask to this was a wild jump in tone and art style, and I get for a lot of people this may not be the Zelda game that they wanted. But having a game where I can explore the high seas while still retaining all of the Zelda charm the series is known for is something that I will appreciate until the day that I die. The cell shade art style looks really good to this day, and I know it's not really because the game looks stunning, the art style just ages incredibly well. Where games like Majora's Mask don't look bad, they just don't hold up as well. but the sense of exploration that I get from Wind Waker is something that I still love. Sure, there are a lot of segments where you're sailing from point A to point B, but it's the definition of the journey, not the destination. While sailing the seas, there are so many things to find and uncover, where now when I play this, I have a hard time not just sailing around for 10 minutes before I do anything. The dynamic between Link and Tetra is one of my favorite in the entire series, mostly because they're pirates.
I am a simple man.
If you haven't played Wind Waker, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. I was really skeptical when I heard that Kirby was getting a 3D game. As a series, Kirby is incredibly simple, and there are a load of 2D Kirby games that are some of the best games on their respective consoles. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land is one of those games that only comes around once every couple years, and it truly made me appreciate how far gaming has come. Growing up with games like Kirby Superstar, I always loved this series, and I have been burned by games jumping into 3D before, so I went in extremely skeptical, but I am glad that I gave this a chance because it is still one of my favorite games that released on the Switch and that has Kirby in it in general. This retains the typical Kirby charm of going from one side of a stage to the other in a game that I can only really compare to Mario 3D World because it retained all of the feelings that made the series special while seamlessly bringing the world into 3D. One of the highlights of the Kirby series is that if you have a keen eye, there are plenty of secrets to explore and uncover, and that was still the case in this game. You are encouraged to test the waters and see what they are hiding around the map because even the smallest little detail can lead to you finding something big towards completion. Saving all of the waddle-dees on any given level is an absolute joy to do. But even when you're not playing a level, there is plenty of content to keep you entertained. Whether you're playing the mini games that are available in the town, or you're doing the challenges that take place between levels, there is always something to do that will keep you entertained for hours on end. And my only real complaint is that there aren't a ton of power-ups available in this game. Granted, you are able to find blueprints to level up your power-ups, which is a great idea that really encourages the player to explore every nook and cranny of a level, but the only thing I want from Kirby and the Forgotten Land is more game. And maybe a new name, because this makes me feel like Kirby's getting dementia.
Whose land is this?
It's your land.
Oh, that's good. Whose land is this?
I am fully willing to receive any hate that this gets me, but the best Metroid game, in my opinion, is Metroid Prime 1. Before you kick me directly in the chest, I understand that Super Metroid is an incredible game. It single-handedly created one of the best genres of video games of all time. But in my opinion, the original Metroid Prime is the pinnacle of the Metroid experience. When I was younger, I played an egregious amount of Super Metroid and had a great time doing it, but it never captured the same sense of urgency and fear that Metroid Prime 1 did, that to this day still sends chills down my spine. The sense of fear that I got when I was exploring this world is something that I can't really describe with words, but I find it endlessly addicting. The story is paced incredibly well. It doesn't take too long to beat through the game, and though there is a good amount of backtracking, it doesn't feel like a chore. Whenever I have to go back to areas I've previously explored in games, I generally feel like I am struggling to do it because I would rather do literally anything else. But in Metroid games, I don't usually feel that way, and this is a perfect example. Going back makes sense and feels natural. And similar to Ocarina of Time, I think that Metroid Prime is the perfect example of bringing a series into 3D perfectly. It has a similar level of exploration that Super Metroid did, but this time you can do it in first person. And coming from someone who's not the biggest fan of first-person shooters, I think this is one of the best games that Nintendo has ever made. Maybe someday Nintendo will remaster Metroid Prime 2 and 3, but until that day comes, I am totally fine playing Metroid Prime in any way I can.
And while they're at it, they could do me a favor and remake one of their other iconic games.
Since I first played it on the GameCube, Animal Crossing is a series that I have been in love with. But I don't think there is a game that captures the essence of what Animal Crossing should be better than New Leaf. Being the mayor of a town seems like it would be a daunting task, but it's Animal Crossing, so you can leave for years at a time and everyone will be okay.
Mr. Mayor, we're just checking in because you haven't come outside in 3 years.
What is he doing? Is he even breathing? As technology advanced, we got Animal Crossing on the DS and on the 3DS, and I think this is the perfect series to be on a portable console. I don't sit down and play Animal Crossing for more than 20 minutes a day, mostly because there isn't that much you can do on a single day, The beauty of this game comes from coming back time and time again and slowly improving your island into what you want it to be. And though games like New Horizons offered more to do in order to make your island the best you possibly can, I like that in New Leaf you have to make the most with what you get. The small changes really add up over time, and though I can't terraform the land like I can in a modern Animal Crossing, I can still make my island feel like home. It's weird to say that I've been playing on the same Animal Crossing island for over a decade, and I don't check it nearly as much as I used to, but every time I go back to New Leaf, I remember how great this series is, and how it's changed the lives of so many people across the world. Star Fox is one of my favorite series that Nintendo has ever produced, and it's really sad to see that we haven't gotten a new Star Fox game in almost 10 years. But no matter how many times I go back and play it, Star Fox 64 is still something that is truly special. A lot of games from the transitional 3D era of the N64 and the PlayStation don't age super well. Whether it's that the graphics don't hold up super well or the controls feel outdated compared to a modern game, sometimes even if a game is remembered to be incredible, it's hard to go back to. But to this day, Star Fox 64 is still smooth and polished, and I love going back and playing it even if it is a little bit older of a title. Rail shooters are pretty simple. You fly down a straight path, shoot enemies, and make sure you don't get hit. But Star Fox 64 encourages you to play this game multiple times because you can go different paths and have a different experience every time you play. The game itself may only take a few hours to beat, but that's only experiencing it one way. The beauty is about finding all of the different hidden routes available in the game. And it's not just the gameplay that makes this special, it's also the characters that join you on your journey. And the music and atmosphere keep it suspenseful throughout the entire game. If one of your partners takes too much damage, they're not available to help you out on the next mission. So it encourages you to actively watch their back, because if you don't, you're going to have a harder time on the next mission. And even when you explore everything this game has to offer and collect all of the medals, you then unlock Expert Mode, which is brutally difficult but still so much fun. They managed to strike a perfect balance between high-risk, high-reward situations that are missing from the modern Star Fox games that we've gotten, like Star Fox Zero. It's hard to find a game that truly ages well, but Star Fox 64 has aged incredibly. And though it may be simple, it's still one of the best games Nintendo has ever made.
You know what? That's enough. I need to do something other than play all of these games. I'm going to go outside.
Oh, what's wrong with this place? What's all that green stuff?
Apparently it's called grass and you're supposed to touch it.
You are out of your mind if you think I'm touching that.